Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Split, a young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, the author of the Dreamer Chronicles, rocking out in Australia. We had a moment of router difficulty. Now, was this an Australia problem or just a normal problem? Because I know Australia has different problems than we have here in the States.
That's right. Our first world problems are just so different. You could say really often what happens here is that broadband is called fraudband. We just don't have those big fat pipes that you guys have piped into your houses. So, we just have a few little wallabies out the back there pedaling furiously. And, from time to time they get a little tired, but it's a good look.
See, I like this because you understood where I was going, and then you totally went with it. Well, maybe our new logo should be the Wallabies pedaling. They're reading while they're pedaling. They're multitasking.
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, this is the craze these days, isn't it? You've got to have your treadmill desk.
Yeah.
Young people listening today, keep fit.
Keep fit so you don't need a treadmill desk. Today, we're going to talk about The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. As always, I'm going to do a little description of the book, and then we're going to talk about it from a reader perspective, well, if we liked it, and a writer perspective, what people can learn from it. So The Night Circus is it's a mysterious and magical circus. Two instructors pitting their students against each other in a battle of tricks, a boy seeking to find life beyond the farm. Le Cirque de Rêve travels from place to place, bringing wonderment wherever it goes. Little do the patrons know that the event is the venue for a magical competition that will lead to love, death, and incredible feats before the duel is won. So, if I was reviewing the second half of this book, let's say I was reviewing just the second half of this book, I'd say that it was rich and captivating, and the story was interesting, and I liked the characters. I would say all of that, and I still generally believe that about the entire work. First half of this book was a lot of buildup for me. Maybe too much, maybe just enough to make the second half more interesting. What do you think on this front?
I think that's exactly right, Bryan. And by the way, I love your book descriptions. You could easily get a lot of work doing blurbs for people. I just don't know how you come up with them. I write my little notes to myself, and yours, it just sounds so captivating, so interesting. So yeah, thanks for that, taking the time to sum it up. I agree. This is a book you have to work at a little bit. It's not like the sort of modern, fast-paced. It's a modern book, but it reminds me more of a literary going, and it's more old school. There's lots of passive voice in it. So for those who don't know what that means, it's a little bit removed from the action. So that can make it a little bit harder to be completely engaged. Now, I felt it was deliberate from the author's perspective. I do know that some reviewers have said this should have been edited, there's too much passive voice. But to me, it was a little like when you have one of those art house movies where the camera kind of pulls back and someone starts narrating what's going on and you don't really hear any dialogue, you just see people, maybe even a montage or a slow montage. So there's a lot of that in this book. And as you say, it's really, there's not a whole lot of tension and conflict. It's really all about the sort of the magic and the things that start happening, and it's not really until you get to that midpoint that it picks up. So yes, it could have been tighter, and for me, I still loved going back to the book and immersing myself in the circus. How did you feel about the setting itself?
The setting is pretty incredible. It really is. It's deep. The concept of it all, of the magic, of how it was put together, and what goes on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I had some Harry Potter-ish kind of thoughts when Bailey's going through the room of the jars and opening up the different environments. It was very rich and very cool, and I definitely think the setting was strong. I mean, how about this as a debut novel?
I know.
That's this book, like we're not going to give any more or any less credit based on your first novel when we give it our first pass. But man, it was really good for a debut novel, and really good in general. But for a debut novel, it's amazing. I'm very impressed with her.
A huge amount of thought gone into it. And by the way, as well, I forgot to mention there is some sexual content in this, so this is definitely for the older young adult. I would say probably 13 to 15 upwards, definitely not middle grade. And it's hard going. I think most middle grade readers would struggle with the literary
unless
style.
They're really into it. Yeah. I would agree with that completely.
Yeah. But yes, definitely for a first normally for a debut novel, you expect that there's some degree of a lack of thought about detail, and there's no lack of thought about detail. I think the only thing lacking is probably the prose in places, and that's pretty much what you picked up on with the first half of the book. And for me, I was willing to go past that. It took me a while to warm to it. I did love the opening line, though. The circus arrived without warning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you got to think as a writer, and we'll transition into writing after this. As a hook, I mean, that first line hook. I actually recently changed. This won't be in the paperback version, but I changed the entire first chapter of Ted Saves the World. Oh. I switched chapters 2 and 1 because chapter 2 had a better hook, and I think as writers, you should consider making sure that you have that strong first line, that strong first paragraph, and then it carries through that entire first chapter, because you need to get people interested.
Yes.
But concept-wise, great hook. Character-wise, as a writer, took me a long time to warm up to Celia and Marco and the fate. I got to tell you, Bailey, when Bailey is introduced, the kid at the fence who then falls for one of the twins, then I kind of leaned forward a little bit. Yeah. I said, oh, this is my, I mean, when you have the crazy world scenario, almost always there's the outsider, and usually the outsider is the main character, especially in middle grade, young adult kind of books. You have the fish out of water, and that made me perk up a little, as did Celia and Marco, their love when they started to connect.
Yes.
And I don't know, they were more it was more sentimental after that. And then also when the rules of the duel became clear, it made more sense to me. Maybe there was just too much mystery. Maybe the lesson is don't have so much mystery without a payoff. And I feel like it did pay off, but it took a while. I don't know. What do you think on those points?
Yes, that's right. If you're going to have mystery, don't string it out for too long, I think. You took the words right out of my mouth. It's almost too mysterious. All the characters are mysterious, probably with the exception of Bailey, who's just a normal kid intrigued by the mystery. And to some degree, you think, well, if he'd have played a more major role earlier on, perhaps that could have been a good central theme for the reader to follow all the way through. I really liked what one reviewer, it was a 1-star review, but and I don't really necessarily agree with the entire review.
Sure.
But I did like the line, which was, this would make a fantastic movie, but unfortunately it's a book. That's really good. It's worth reading, and we believe that there's a movie in the works, and I just think when the screenwriters get hold of it and they step up that pacing, they'll just have so much to play with in this book. I really do think. Yeah,
the imagery, it's gonna be so fun for sure. Well, do you have any more thoughts on it as a writer? Because if you don't, we could go into the takeaways.
No, let's go into the takeaways for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first one, we both touched upon it. You should include mystery in your book. We've talked in previous reviews about how the mystery, like with the Maze Runner and such, mystery can really spice up a book, and with Ready Player One, of course. But if you do too much mystery, the reader can get bored, kind of waiting for things to pan out, or put it down to get away from it. Do you have another takeaway?
I do, yeah. I like that too because I think you've still got to keep up pacing, and let's face it, let's not downplay things as well. There are a couple of things that you really don't see coming in this book. So
For sure,
there are definitely plot twists. So it's not just a question of waiting around and nothing happens. It's just that it's probably a balance of that mystery thing. But the thing that got me is it's really interesting to read something. It's actually written for adults, this book, but it's kind of gained a following with a young adult crowd, and you can see why, because of the protagonists. Obviously they're young, and there's a love story, and then there's the younger boy Bailey coming into it. But it's really refreshing to read something that's modern, that's not in this kind of werewolf vampire weird sort of stuff. That there can be things that are still magical, but they don't have to be in those so-called top-selling genres. So I really liked that. It was different.
Yeah. And following up on that point, I think one takeaway I have: if you're gonna go wacky, go all in. Morgenstern goes all in on this. You got the contortionist, the tarot card reader, the ghosts, the illusions, the acrobats, the acrocats, everything. Like, it goes all the way in. The bonfire, everything is wacky. It's so creative. And if you're going to be creative, and as a debut author, like we said, this is incredible. Put so much thought into it that it just entrances the reader from beginning to end. That's I would encourage debut authors or authors of any kind to make that a priority.
I totally agree. And I think you've said it before, which I love this quote, which is, well, if this is true, then what else is true? And I think she's demonstrated that really beautifully. So, well, if this can be that wacky, what else can be that wacky? And don't hang it on just one thing, because then the book becomes gimmick. I love that. Very nicely said.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I have a prompt. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. In the night circus, magic comes with a price. Imagine that you had a magical gift, but that it came with an equally powerful downside. What's the issue with your powers, and why might it get in the way of what you desire the most? So,
I like that.
There we go.
Inbuilt conflict.
Yes. Yeah, that's the fun of it, definitely. So, it's so funny talking about these, because at the time we're doing this, we haven't posted any of these yet. So I keep saying, like, post your responses to the prompt in the comments on thesplitbookreviews.com. Post this on our YouTube comments at our still non-existent YouTube channel that will exist by the time you see this. Email us. We'll have a contact form on thesplitbookreviews.com. We love your responses to these, because one of the big reasons we do this, we want to creatively inspire you, and we want to inspire you craft-wise, whether you're a reader or a writer, because every reader can be a writer. They have the imagination for it, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on the Night Circus? All in all, I'm very glad I read it. I wasn't sure if I would be glad halfway through, but it was a good ride for sure.
It was a great ride. It was different to how I expected it to be, actually. I was really looking forward to reading it. And then when I first started reading, I thought, I'm not sure yet. Am I sure? But I quite like the magic stuff. And then, I was drawn in. So I do think it's a worthy read, and I would certainly recommend it. For me, probably I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a slightly flawed read, but well worth it.
Yeah, I agree with your rating. 4 out of 5. We haven't rated any of these, but we'll rate this one 4 out of 5. Awesome. Cool. Well, that was The Split. Check us out at thesplitbookreviews.com. I'm Bryan Cohen. That's Robert Scanlon. We'll be back next week with even more reviews.
Can you believe it? Ciao for now.
Bye, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robin?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.